Welcome my friend, Eric Bailey here, owner of Feel Well, Live Well. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to finally overcome the fear of failure. How many times have you felt impressed to do something, but you didn't because of fear? How many times has fear been a factor in your life, stopping you in your tracks from actually doing the things that you know that you need to do in order to become successful? My friends, fear is one of those crazy emotions that we all experience. There are fears of spiders, there's the fear of heights, there's the fear of public speaking. But what's also interesting is there's very much a fear of success, which keeps a person from moving forward. They think, oh my gosh, what if I actually reach all of my dreams? But it isn't all that was cracked up to be. What if I really am extremely, extremely powerful, but I can't handle it? My friend, how many times has this affected you in your life? Don't you think it's time to finally overcome fear once and for all? Let's start by defining exactly what fear is. Now, there are a lot of acronyms such as false evidence appearing real, and that's an excellent acronym, but the actual definition of fear is the anticipation of pain. And again, this stops so many of us from actually moving forward because for whatever reason, we feel like moving forward and doing what we feel we need to do to reach a certain goal is going to be painful. How many people do you know that would love to release weight and get more fit, but don't because they believe that the process of starting some sort of exercise program or diet is going to be more painful than it's actually going to be worth? Again, my friend, this is just another form of fear. I will never forget a nightmare that I had when I was only 6 years old. It was a nightmare that kept me up at night for years because as I was falling asleep, this image of this nightmare would pop into my mind and I would begin to anticipate having that same nightmare again. And so I wouldn't want to fall asleep because I didn't want to experience that pain of having that nightmare. What happened in the nightmare was simply this. I don't know if you've ever had a nightmare like this before, but I was the observer and I was watching these really interesting events take place nearby this cliff. And over the edge of this cliff was water and a bunch of jagged rocks down here. So of course, if anybody fell off this cliff, they would fall to their death. Well, as I was watching the events of this dream take place, I kept watching these characters in this dream that were, for some reason, playing this ridiculously crazy game of walking backwards towards the edge of this cliff. I guess they were trying to see who could get the closest to the edge of the cliff without falling off. And you can imagine, as the observer, I kept shouting to the participants, saying, "Stop! Don't get any closer. If you do, you are going to die." And I kept watching as they got closer and closer. And I kept feeling this fear inside of me getting stronger and stronger. And again, this nightmare kept me awake at night for years to come. Finally, a couple of years later, I was in my bed trying to fall asleep again when I saw the image of this nightmare beginning to cross my mind. Sometimes just the image of something is enough to stir up that emotion of fear. And for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to try something a little different, something a little outside the box, if you will. And in my mind, I decided to give this cliff a ridiculous looking face. And I imagined that each time someone got close to the cliff would go, "Hi, how you doing?" And it was a friendly cliff. There was no danger here. This was Casper the Friendly Cliff. And turning this into something slightly humorous was enough to get rid of the charge of the fear. And it never haunted me again. Anytime from that day forward, I felt this charge beginning to come to my mind, or this image beginning to come to my mind, I simply imagined this cliff having this ridiculous looking face. And again, Just enough of that humor was enough to eradicate the charge of that fear. And I was then able to sleep much better. My friend, what's your biggest fear? What's the fear that's stopping you in your tracks from moving forward? It could be the fear of failure. It could be the fear of snakes. It could be the fear of judgment. Try this if you will. Grab a piece of paper and make a visual representation of what your fear is. I once had a mentoring student grab his piece of paper and he made kind of just this giant ball of darkness. And I said, describe this to me. And he said, this is what I feel is happening. Each time I try to move forward in my life, I feel this wave of darkness that for whatever reason I can't cross. Otherwise, something bad is going to happen. I said, okay, now take your pen and turn this image into something humorous. He looked at it for a moment and he goes, wait a second, this looks like my ball of hair when I wake up in the morning. This just looks like the big fuzz ball of hair that I get when I have bedhead. And I said, awesome. Can your bedhead harm you? And he goes, well, no. I said, from now on, what I want you to do is every time you feel that fear coming on, picture this image in your mind. Tell yourself that that is nothing more than your bedhead. And that will instantly eradicate the charge of that fear. Try this at home, my friend. Grab a piece of paper right now. You can stop this video if you need to. And draw a visual representation of whatever your fear looks like to you. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Like you saw, it could just be a ball of fuzz. Then do something to turn that image into something humorous. Humor takes you out of the fear part of your brain and into the not fear part of your brain. It instantly eradicates the charge of the fear, and it allows you to then move forward. Thanks again. Eric again, you know the drill. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and a subscribe, and make sure to leave your comments down below. And as always, if you want to take your life to the next level, make sure to join us at one of our next live events, information for which you can find at feelwelllivewell.com. We'll see you there.